You're listening to the Like and Follow podcast presented by Milk Bar Digital.
The TikTok revolution is here, and the big question is, should you get on board? Welcome to Like and Follow, a podcast exploring social media and digital marketing presented by Milk Bar Digital. I'm Ben, and on this episode, we're looking at the social media giant that is TikTok. Joining me this episode, I've got two people who know much more about TikTok than I do. First up, we've got Alison.
Hello.
And we've also got Callum.
How's it going?
So, TikTok, what are we talking about? It's a brand new, big social media platform. I've used it a little bit. I haven't really done many creative pieces on it yet. Callum, you've done a lot more on TikTok than I think anybody else in the office. What's your what's your experience with it been so far?
It's interesting actually, because when I first got onto it, I got it initially thinking, oh, you probably just see some people doing little lip syncing videos and just for kids. I just wanted to see what it was. And this was probably back in October. And I got it and I'm like, oh, okay. But then as I started scrolling, I started finding more and more variations in the kinds of content that you'd see. So instead of just lip syncing, you'd see people doing comedy skits, you'd see cooking tutorials, you'd see makeup routines, you'd see a whole variety of things. And then the more I saw it, the more I started tuning in some time. And then eventually got up to lots and lots of hours not wasted, I'm going to rephrase that, productive hours on TikTok. And then, so I started actually looking at it properly, probably early February. And then just sort of posting just for fun, especially during isolation when there's not much else to be doing. I thought may as well give it a crack. And no, it's a really interesting app, I think.
That's the one thing that I really wanted to bring up as well, is that we are all, self-isolating. We're doing the right thing by staying home as much as we can. And TikTok just seems to be one of those things that people have gotten on board with even more so. Why do you think that might be? And I'm going to ask you, Ali, why do you think that might be?
I think it really started as younger people, like teenagers or even younger, like 10, 11, 12, that sort of maybe were the first to adopt it. But then because they were on it, older people were like, oh, that's not like an app for us. That's for young people, because there's only young people on it. And then gradually as older people got on there, it's oh, maybe this isn't that bad. And then it sort of became less of a meme or a joke. And now it's oh, actually this is just another social media platform now. I don't think it's as a joke anymore. I think maybe isolation has just sort of led people to oh, I guess I'll just check it out and see. And then once they actually see, oh, it's actually not just for 9-year-olds, it's actually for everyone sort of thing. I think, maybe it's just gave them that sort of extra push to check it out.
I think at this point in time, it's probably important to actually talk about what TikTok is as an app. I mean, we're talking about how people are using it and what sort of people are using it. But as an app, we can look at it as, say, Instagram for very short form video. It's essentially what Vine used to be, but now updated for 2020, I suppose. We do happen to have a couple of stats of TikTok. It's the third most downloaded non-gaming app behind WhatsApp and Messenger. And Callum, you've actually just let me know before we started recording this that it's now surpassed, 2 billion downloads as of the end of April, which is astonishing. So all those people who have gotten on board during periods of social isolation, it seems like it's really just bumped those numbers right back up.
That's a quarter of the whole world.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous amount of people.
Wow.
It's insane how many people have gotten on board, and it's weird to see such a big explosion in an app. Especially from a marketing perspective, because from what I can tell, there's not really much chance for marketers to get on board just yet. Have you guys found anything to say that marketing is starting to make more of a push into TikTok? Maybe we'll go with Callum first.
Yeah, well, I think definitely they've got an advertising option there. At this stage, it is still quite early, so it's only really the big players that are able to get into it, because the cost of doing it, for example, there's a thing called a branded hashtag challenge where brands can pay to have a specific hashtag and then create a challenge around it, where maybe it's a type of dance or something like that. And something like that's going to cost a brand around 150,000 US just to run that kind of campaign. So at this stage, because it is so new, only big companies like Facebook Messenger has been running some ads on there. I've seen Apple Music, Universal has run some as well. But in terms of small to medium businesses, at this stage, it's not an option, I would say, for advertising. But in terms of organic content, I definitely think it's a really good opportunity for them to jump on board.
Do you think that the organic content versus, say, a pay-to-play is going to make much of a difference in terms of how brands use this?
Well, I think in terms of organic content, because TikTok is such an unusual app in the way that someone who has, say they have 10 followers, they could post a video and then within one day have 2 million people see that video. And that's not something you're going to see on Instagram or Facebook or anything else. So from a marketer's perspective, if you're a brand and you're a small business and you just post a video on there, you have the potential to reach millions of people so that they can see your business without spending a cent. So I think as long as they're doing it right and they have the right kind of audience for it, it's definitely an opportunity for them. And I think they should really jump on that.
Ali, are there any sort of businesses that you think would be smart to take advantage of this early?
Yeah, I think definitely brands that are catering more towards like a millennial or like younger audience, would definitely be sort of like the natural fit. I think sort of back in the day, late last year when I was on TikTok, you didn't see many like Australian brands or like many sort of interesting, cool brands running ads. It was like always sort of like a app or something like that they were advertising. Whereas now, like you go on and like Tinder's advertising on there and DoorDash, Menulog, like stuff like that. So I think sort of more like younger Australian brands sort of got on board, and then even like clothing brands and like fashion brands, that's definitely something that I've seen a lot in my feed anyway, like more organic content from them.
I think it's probably beneficial to have a chat about why we're seeing that sort of material in the feeds of like in our own personal feeds. The AI that TikTok have at their disposal is always learning, and it's probably one of the smartest AIs out there for any app at the moment. Does this make marketing to a new audience harder to do you think?
I think it makes it easier, if anything, because it's, you can create that content and sort of rely on TikTok to show it to the people that it knows will enjoy it. You're not sort of putting it out there and just anyone can see it. Sort of TikTok's almost taking care of the targeting for you. So I think it actually is a good thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, definitely it's something that needs to be done with some thought. You can't just go ahead and say, I'm just going to film a quick thing and post it because the algorithm's not going to cater for you. So I think a little plug for Milk Bar here. So you really need to have people that know a little bit about how TikTok works so that when you're actually posting your content, you can do it in a way that's going to let the algorithm know, okay, this is the kind of audience I want to have see my video. And then if you can keep doing that consistently, it's going to keep being shown to those kind of people. And that's how you're going to really grow yourself quite quickly on that.
I think that's a good point, that people who know a bit about how TikTok works can take advantage of it. It is one of those apps that seems to have a little bit of a learning curve that sort of comes with first starting up. But once you sort of break down those barriers, you can kind of push it to see what new stuff you can do. Do you feel that there are going to be more and more companies jumping on board now during this period where people are looking for something to entertain themselves and they've got this new app? Do you think it's important for brands to get on before the end of, quarantine or social isolation?
I think it's just important to get on early while, like, as Callum said, we're getting all of the good organic reach. So if you think like back in the day of Facebook, it was a lot easier for videos to go viral there and to get like free reach there. But then it sort of got to the point where, they're not really sharing unless you boost it. And perhaps TikTok will go down that road as well. So I think it's, good to be on there early and making the most of it before everyone's on there. It becomes so saturated. Your competitors are on there. And, eventually they may sort of introduce something where you can pay to boost your videos and things like that, and it'll sort of reduce your organic reach.
Definitely. But at the same time as well, again, like I was saying before, don't just jump on there and start pushing out random content because that's probably not going to work for you. But even just saving a username there, because they can be taken up quite quickly. So So you might have seen Apple has joined as well recently in the last couple of weeks. They haven't posted any videos yet, but they've got their account all there, and they've already got about 25,000 followers all ready to go. So when they do start creating content, you're going to have a pool of people to see what they're putting out, which is really important, I think.
I guess it's important to have some sort of strategy and like think about, you know, your audience and what they're going to react best to, and not just try and be sort of cool for the sake of it, because that can sort of come across even worse. Like it can do more damage than good if you're sort of trying too hard. So I think as long as you're thinking about the platform and making content that really aligns with that, not just selling stuff for the sake of it.
In my experience with TikTok, I haven't really found a lot of brands who are offering a product or a service in their content. They're not really advertising in the way that we are used to seeing ads, where it's big splash of a product or here's a deal that you can take advantage of. Do you feel as though that this is probably more typical of TikTok? Callum, we'll go with you first.
Yeah, well, I think, again, because TikTok is all based around videos that can be shared and laughed at and enjoyed, not necessarily laughed at, but people need to enjoy them. So if you're just putting up a picture or a short video of a product of yours, people aren't going to really find that interesting. So I think it's important for brands especially to create content that's going to be engaging for their audience, but also still sort of relate it back to the brand. And a good example of that is Washington Post. If you've heard of them on TikTok, they've got a really big audience of about 500,000 already. And it's pretty much this one guy called, what's his name, Dave Jorgensen. And he's really, really great. And he just makes little comedy skits and somehow loosely links it to the Washington Post. And so by doing that, it promotes Washington Post, but in a way that's funny and engaging and will engage those people, especially millennials and those younger people that might not otherwise have been engaged with the Washington Post. So I think that's a really cool way of doing it.
What are your thoughts on that, Ali?
Yeah, I agree. I think some examples that come to mind for me are like, there's like a grazing box company that's quite big on Instagram, on TikTok, sorry. And instead of being like, oh, here's our grazing box, order now, this is $29.99 or whatever. They do a lot of videos on like how they arrange it or how you can sort of, you know, pair your own things on a grazing board, or how you can like cut things for interesting shapes for fruit and like stuff like that. So they're sort of providing videos that like give the user value rather than just selling. I think that's something that brands could sort of take over to other channels like Instagram and Facebook and just general marketing as well, rather than just being like so selling all the time.
It is an interesting sort of new frontier, I guess, for a lot of people and a lot of brands. There is a sort of, I don't know, I want to say a more of a cultural relevance that comes from the content that is produced on TikTok rather than the traditional ads or the traditional try and get people to enter a competition or what have you. There's much more of a focus, I think, on entertainment value and brand recognition in terms of what you can use TikTok for. Do you feel that this is probably going to make a bigger difference on other platforms where brands can get more cultural relevance for their brand rather than just stick to the traditional advertising of a product? Ali, we'll go with you first.
Yeah, I think so. I think it comes down to like even just thinking about like the traditional marketing funnel, like things like TikTok. It's sort of at the start of the funnel where it's about like, you know, just general brand awareness, educating, like giving value, becoming like, you know, a leader in your like industry, or, you know, becoming top of mind for people. Not so much about like selling or promotions or even like specifics on your products, more just like your brand as a general sort of player in that space or whatever. So I think maybe sometimes people, when they think about their social strategies on like Instagram or Facebook, they just sort of go straight to like bottom of the funnel stuff on like, this is how much it costs, this is where you can get it, like buy now sort of thing, rather than like spending time on like the top of the funnel, like awareness and stuff like that. So I think TikTok's almost like forcing people to sort of just be, you know, more educational and entertaining at the start before they sort of work their way down to like sales-based stuff. So it's like they've sort of been trained by TikTok almost that they need to provide, you know, value to their customers first.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that as well. And also it's important to remember that each platform is different. and that one thing that might work on Instagram might not work on LinkedIn, and something might work on TikTok, but it might not work somewhere else. So it is important to remember those distinctions. But again, you can cross-platform promote and do things like that. So for example, the content you create on TikTok would also work quite well as an Instagram story, for example. But again, it is a little bit of a different ball game in terms of what you're putting out there. So you do need to be mindful of it. But if done in the right way, it can also influence the way that you're going to be creating content on other platforms too. Especially with things like the filters that they have on TikTok. You'll see a lot of those crossed over from Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat, because all of them create their own kinds of filters. And sometimes people would film the filter on Snapchat and then put that up on TikTok, or vice versa. So it's interesting to see how all these platforms are sort of linking together in certain ways.
I think it would be quite remiss of us to not sort of talk about some of maybe the downfalls or the pitfalls that you could face when using TikTok. A lot of the talking points that I've seen about TikTok is that it is a younger demographic, and there have been some instances where that has gotten them in trouble, especially overseas, where, privacy concerns are a real big thing. And using the data that they have access to for the younger demographic is something that, I think brands need to be made more aware of at the start. Do you think this is going to be able to, or do you think this is a thing that might turn some brands away from the app, Callum?
Well, I think just like with anything, it's important to remember who is going to be seeing your content. Like there is definitely a lot of a younger demographic on TikTok, but that is slowly gradually increasing to more adults as well. But it is important to remember that when you're putting out content, so just be mindful of who your target audience is and who's going to be seeing it, and just create content in a way that's not going to be offensive. It's not going to be anything like that. So really just consider what you're doing. And as long as you have a bit of a strategy behind what you're putting out, you would probably have put some of that thought into there already. So you won't really have many issues. But I can see some brands sort of staying clear because they don't want to take that risk just in case on the off chance that it does end in something negative like that. But TikTok has been doing some things recently to help improve that privacy. Like they've recently just disabled all direct messaging for all children under the age of 16. Completely across the platform, which is really unique. So Instagram and Facebook, they haven't done anything like that. So TikTok's really the first one to flat out ban direct messaging for such young people as well, which is a really good step in the right direction. But of course, there is still a chance that things like that could happen. So it is important that they put some thought into it before they put content out.
As long as you're not making content that's going to offend or put you into hot water, you should be fine. It is an interesting sort of time period with TikTok becoming as big as it is. Do you feel that this is going to make this platform is going to make a whole new world for advertising, Ali?
I think so. Like even just going back to what we were talking about before, and that should brands stay away because there's younger people on there. Like if anything, it's sort of the opposite. It's like this is where all the younger people are going. Like, there's been stats showing that like people aren't really going on Facebook anymore, millennials. That like sort of TikTok and even like Snapchat are sort of those places where younger people are. So like if that's your target market, that's like a really good opportunity to sort of market to them and reach them. Like if you're spending money on Facebook and that's not working anymore, this is good that we're sort of making this world where this is where you can reach younger people and this is where you can reach sort of older people, and sort of even like splitting it a little bit.
Yeah, 100% agree. It's always going to be a thing. I've heard some people saying that, TikTok's just like a phase. It'll be around for a year and then it'll sort of be over. But I definitely don't think that's going to be the case, because so many people are already on board. And because of the range of content that you're seeing is just going to keep coming out and just grow and adapt. And they're even thinking of adding things like shopping features into organic posts. So when brands start to post on their content, they'll be able to have direct links within their caption to send people to a website or to purchase a product. And when they do that, obviously it's going to make it a lot easier for brands to get on board and get their content out there. So I think it's here to stay, and it's definitely going to be a bit of a revolutionary thing once they get those advertising prices down. So it's more of an all brands can access it kind of thing.
One of the big differences in TikTok is that it has a very, very diverse back catalogue of sounds and music that you can use to add to your little bits of content. Do you think this is going to be a major player in terms of how people use TikTok in marketing, Ali?
In terms of music marketing, I think definitely, and I've already started to see that with some bands, releasing their albums on TikTok first before they even put it on Spotify or releasing it, officially. And, songs sort of becoming popular only because of TikTok, or people discovering new artists or sounds or, songs only because of TikTok. And that's sort of something that I think artists have discovered, and now they're trying to like take advantage of it to, promote their music organically. And like, as we said before, like to a younger audience. So I think Justin Bieber joined TikTok just to like promote his new song, and like every video that he did had his song in the background, just to sort of like, and like promoting people sort of get on board and use his sound, and sort of people that were fans would be like, oh, if we use that, it's like Justin might see it or something like that. And even like, I can't remember who it was, I can't remember who it was, but they sort of made a sound on TikTok, but with no lyrics, and they were promoting people to sort of go and use the sound and put their own lyrics of what they think it should be on there. And that did really well. Before that song, was it Shawn Mendes?
Charlie Puth, I think.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And yeah, I guess when that song is eventually released, like it's so recognizable already because people have heard it on TikTok for like months. So yeah, I definitely think music marketing and TikTok really go hand in hand.
Well, I know that BTS have also released singles exclusively on TikTok, and they're one of the biggest K-pop bands in the world. They could do it through any medium and they would still get all of the hits that they need. But to do it on TikTok is a very, very calculated decision, I think. Well, what are your thoughts on how music marketing is going to look like moving forward, Callum?
Well, I think, initially the big kickoff that really got people thinking about this was Lil Nas X. You probably have heard of his song Old Town Road. So that one amassed 67 million listens on TikTok, and that really helped him work his way up to the number one on the Billboard charts, which he stayed for 17 weeks. And once that happened, a lot of other artists were like, okay, this is something that we've got to look into. And so, as you said, Justin Bieber's done that and a few others as well. I think most recently Drake with his song like Tootsie Roll. A lot of people were doing dances with that on TikTok. And so when he actually launched it, it debuted at number one on the list because of all that stuff that had already been going on TikTok. So I think it's really important to do that. And I think if you can release a song on TikTok and come up with a cool challenge or a dance to accompany that, that's what's going to really make it, give it some traction and get people to be on board with it. Because if you just put the song out there, it might get some views, but if you can create a challenge or something to do around that song, that's what's going to make people look at it and think, okay, I want to try that and I want to share that with my friends as well.
And even like older songs, like songs that were sort of popular in like the 90s and stuff like that, it's interesting to see like some of them like regain popularity with like younger people just because they're on TikTok. And even I think we've seen like certain songs become like popular in mainstream radio again just because they've been on TikTok. I think what's that song called? Ride It or something?
Yeah, I think that
was one by like Sean Paul. Or there was a certain song that was like quite a few decades old, and then all of a sudden like mainstream radio was playing it just because people were requesting it. I thought that was pretty funny. But the thing to note is that like obviously songs are traditionally like 3-4 minutes long, but on TikTok, they can only be, 15, 20, up to a minute maximum. So whether people will start to sort of release shorter songs that literally the whole song can be used on a TikTok, or whether they sort of think about making sure like they have good snippets in their songs that are like catchy for TikTok, rather than just like making a song and then people on TikTok find a good bit, like whether they start to create songs for TikTok, like different artists.
Exactly, like you're seeing a lot of artists now, when they're creating their music, they're thinking in terms of like the lyrics and the beats and how people might be using that in TikTok. So they might say a kind of dance move or a position to move yourself, so that when people hear their music, they can create a dance to it. So I think it's really changing the way that music is created across the world. So it'll be interesting to see in the next couple of years the sort of top 100 list and see how that changes and the kinds of sounds that we're hearing from that. There's a few quick stats about some of the big creators on there. So Charli D'Amelio, if you haven't heard, she's the number one on TikTok at the moment. So she's really grown. So when I first heard of her in October, she had around 500,000 or 600,000 people, which is still a lot of followers. But between then and now, she's now got 52.3 million people following her, and she's had over 3.5 billion people like her videos. So it is really interesting to see how big these numbers are. So it really goes to show that TikTok is not some small player. It's actually a really big competitor in terms of the social media platforms.
Well, thank you guys both for joining me to look into what TikTok is all about. I think we've really uncovered some really interesting ideas in it and bits of info there.
Well, I guess we should probably promote the Milk Bar TikTok. So go to TikTok, type in Milk Bar Digital, and you'll probably find us there.
I just want to say thank you to everyone for listening and watching this episode of Like and Follow. If you're looking to use TikTok in your social media marketing, Milk Bar Digital, we're here to help. You can get in contact with us at hello@milkbardigital.com.au, and remember to like and follow us on all of the socials at Milk Bar Digital.